Good morning, good morning, good morning, and happy Saturday. No, happy Sunday. I am Charisma. Charisma Cares travels the world. And here I teach you how to do a number of things: how to live your best life, your truest self, how to travel the world, and how I do so with my son, even though he has a disability, how to invest in real estate, and just how to live great. This is the first time I am doing this series live. It is the Money Matters series. And in this series, I talk about how I invest in real estate and I take you along in my journey of purchasing my next property. If you've been following along, you can see it's not a quick process. It does take time. You have to do the work to get it done, and eventually it pays off. So right now in my journey, I'm in a different place in my journey. I am currently looking at different markets to buy property. But what I wanted to talk about today was basically how you can use your house that you already have as income. This isn't necessarily for somebody that is interested in doing investments in real estate, purchasing other properties, even though that's something that you can do. However, this today is about how to use your house that you currently have and make money off that house. So, whether or not you are going on vacation for a week or you are going to travel the world for a year, I'm going to talk about great different ways. Hello, good morning. How are you? I'm going to talk about different ways to utilize your house and make that money. I want to talk about Airbnb first because for a lot of people, that's primarily what they know. That umbrella is actually short-term rentals, not necessarily just Airbnb, but when you're in that short-term rental arena, it can work out in your favor. It can yield big results, lots of money when you're renting out with a short-term rental. However, you have to deal with the turnover, you have to deal with the wear and tear, and the biggest thing is you got to deal with the people. The good thing is, if you own your home, there are different things you can use, such as Guesty. That's one that I know off the top of my head, where they'll do the property management for you for short term rentals. And not only will they put it on platforms like Airbnb, but they'll put it on VRBO. They'll also put it on Booking.com and other platforms such as that. You can hire out your maid, or they can find you, a cleaner themselves. So they can do as much management as you want or don't want. So basically, yeah, you have that choice of doing that. I think that Guesty and different companies like that are definitely a good option because it takes the guesswork out. Like, you don't have to do the actual work yourself. Now, what you will need to do is you will need to prepare the location. So, if you're still staying there, what I recommend is locking up the doors to the places in the home that you don't want them to go. Just add in some locks. So if you decide, well, I'm going to let them use the dressers, the drawers, then what we'll do is I'll empty those out and I'll put all of my items in the closet, and then I'll lock up the closet. I'll have separate sheets, separate towels for them that I leave out for their use. So I'll have all of these items out and available for them to use. This is a good option when you're planning on living in the house and you're not going to be gone for a long time. You have all of the items that they need. You could, if you wanted to, leave your regular items, your dishwashing liquid, your soap powder, things of that nature. You can leave that out for them, but you can switch this out as much or as little as you want. You want to do this where it makes sense for you, right? You can do one room that you rent out, or you can do the whole house that you rent out. I just recommend locking up those rooms that you don't want to rent out. In my last house, I had one, two, three bedrooms on the ranch level, and then I had a loft on the top level. What I did was I locked up the area, the door that led to the loft and led to the garage. That way they didn't have access to those areas. So anything I wanted to put in there, I could, anything that I felt like was of value. My clothes I put into the closet, and then I locked up the walk-in closets, but they still had a huge bathroom. They had access to the dressers because the dressers were empty. And then in the other two bedrooms, I left them access to the closet. One of the bedrooms had like kids games and other things in there for them to access, which made it really easy being Airbnb guests. Now, if you're doing a rental and you're able to do long term, I would suggest, especially if you're doing Airbnb and short-term rental, I would suggest doing something such as trying to get people that want to stay 2 to 3 weeks or more. You will make a little less money with that because you do a 10% or 20% discount. However, that will decrease the wear and tear on your house, and it'll also decrease the turnover, so you won't have people in and out, for every weekend or, every few days, especially if you're planning on going back and living in that house. Now, if you're going to be traveling for a long amount of time or long term, then that's not really a problem. You can definitely have the people that's coming and going pretty frequently. The housekeeper will have, the towels, the sheets, everything they need to change everything out. You want to, you just probably want to make sure if they're long term, you do have someone that goes at least every other week to make sure the property is being kept up. Some people don't like that, so that may not be an option, but that is something to consider, or at least once a month if you have somebody that's doing short term but month to month. Now, of course, we have heard in the news where with the Airbnb, you've had people that are squatters that don't want to leave, that's claiming residence. So, that's another issue. And, we've done a video about that. I can link that video. But that's a whole nother issue. That's not something that I'm necessarily talking about today. However, I do want it to be noted that, yeah, you can, you can definitely put this in short-term rental. Another thing you can do is you can do VRBO. VRBO has been around for a long time, actually before Airbnb. People say they get better guests than VRBO because they're also able to charge more. The rates are actually higher when doing VRBO over Airbnb. However, more people utilize Airbnb. Why? I'm not sure, because VRBO has been around for a long time, but Airbnb is what really has made a difference in the short-term rental world. A lot of people are now going into booking.com, expedia.com. A lot of times you're seeing these Airbnbs listed on these sites. And I think one of the things that people like about this is that they can cancel if they need to. I think the fees are definitely lower. And I really haven't heard as many issues with, booking.com and Expedia from a owner perspective, as far as saying, okay, yeah, we're having these same issues that they're having with Airbnb. So that's another option if you want to do short-term rental. So definitely something that I would recommend. If your house is going to be sitting vacant, it's not making any money, you need to pay that mortgage. When I went to Costa Rica and Panama, that's what I did. I actually put my house on Airbnb. I had one tenant that came out, and she ended up staying for almost 2 months. in my house, and that ended up paying for my mortgage for 2 months, and that gave me spending money as well. Now, I'm not going to say it went off without a hitch, because she did break the wash machine. However, Airbnb does have a very good homeowner policy that covers any damages. So even though she said, "Oh, well, no, I'm not going to pay for it because I don't feel like it was my fault," what she said was she didn't want to pay to replace the wash machine, and it really wasn't worth the fixing of the wash machine when I had the technician come out. And because of the wash machine, I guess she let it go so long that it moved around and put a hole in the wall. So even though she said, "Oh no, I don't want to pay for it," the good thing was that with the Airbnb, what they do is they have coverage. They have like $1 million policy. So their policy paid for the wash machine minus the depreciation, which wasn't too bad, minus the depreciation. So it paid for the new wash machine, and it paid for me to have the hole in the wall repaired. So that was a good thing. That was the good thing about it, was that it was, that was really easy. It was very simple to submit it. I just submitted my receipts to Airbnb. I submitted the quotes, and they reimbursed me the same way that they pay you. If you use PayPal or direct deposit, however you use that, you can get your money reimbursed. Now, as far as squatters, I can't help y'all with that. But as far as actually the management of the property, it's actually not bad. Now, businesses such as Guesty, they still charge the 10%, so you don't have to worry about it charging a whole lot of money. 10% is typical for anyone that does property management, 8 to 10%. So it still does charge that amount. So you don't have to worry about that being like an astronomical amount. Now, I don't know where they're located, if it's long distance and if you want something long distance, but maybe you can find something local that will manage that property as well. The other thing that I would recommend, if you don't want to do short-term rental and you're going to be leaving for a long period of time, I would say look into doing long-term rentals. Even if you do long-term rentals short-term, you can do 3-month leases, 6-month leases, and then your average 12 or 18-month lease. With my first house, that's what I did with that. I did a 12-month lease that could be renewed every year. I don't do any longer than that because I do raise rents based off the market value. And frankly, my area is in high demand, so I really don't need to do a 2 or 3 year lease. And I look at it like I travel, but what if I decided I wanted to come back? And by doing a 1-month lease, that leaves me the flexibility of coming back and living in that home. I just know that every year, if I want to come back, then I just don't renew that lease. That has not been the case. However, I do have that option. When you're leasing out your house, the biggest thing is the quality of tenant. You want to make sure that you do your homework, you do your research, the landlord tenant laws in your area, what's, what you can do, what you can't do. You want to make sure that you are well versed on that. You also want to make sure you vet your tenant. You want to do your credit check. You want to run the background. You want to ask for references. And if possible, you want to visit them at their house. That's a big thing. That lets you know how they're going to take care of the property by seeing their current property. So that is something that I recommend doing if you can do. I personally prefer to find my own tenant. However, you can do a property management company and they can find a tenant for you. They can definitely look for that tenant. Of course, they're going to charge you a fee for it. They'll do the vetting of the tenant. They're not going out and doing things like that, but they'll do the background of the tenant and they'll help you find it. There are free services that will help you do that as well if you were so inclined. I know, and I don't know if they're all free anymore. Let me say that. They were free. Things like Zillow, apartments.com. There are some different places that will help you find tenants. A lot of times you can locate those tenants by just doing an ad on Facebook. Facebook ads are free, Zillow and Hotpads and all of that. I think they're charging now, but Facebook is definitely a place that you could put ads on there looking for tenants. People frequently do it all over the world, not just here in the States. So you can look for a tenant there. You just want to make sure that you use the fair housing practices when you are identifying the tenant and vetting the tenants, because you don't want to do anything that will get you sued. You can manage that property from afar with a lot of these online platforms. You can do your management. They can pay you online. Your money can be direct deposited into your account, and you can manage anything else from afar. If you need to do a plumber or electrician, all of that can be paid online. You can look one up online. You don't need to be there when they get there. The tenant can be there. So all of that can be done online very simply, very easily. If you don't want to do that, you can always do a property management company. The same way we did one for the short-term rentals, the same way you could do one for the long-term rental. Property management companies are going to run you about 10% to do the management of the property. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at your budget. It's going to be about 10% of that rental price. So, if you're renting for $2,000, that's about $200 a month. But they will manage everything. Now, I do want to let you know, even though they're managing everything, that doesn't mean that they won't contact you. What you'll do is you'll have an agreement that if there is anything over a certain amount that needs to be taken care of, let's say you need to replace a water heater, you need to do an AC unit, anything over a certain amount, the property management company will reach out to you, and they will ask you, if you have a company you want to go with, if you need to authorize those repairs, how you want to do that. So having the property management company doesn't mean that you're 100% hands off, but it can mean that you're pretty good at being hands off for the most part. So this is basically just a quick video that I wanted to give you all, just to let you know you have options. You don't have to necessarily sell your house. One of the great things about doing some of these rentals is you can leave all your stuff in your house, and then you don't have to worry about getting a storage unit. I have a storage unit because I kept a lot of my property to put in another rental. If I decide to do an Airbnb or a rental or something of that nature, I actually kept a lot of things to put up there. So that's another option that you have. You can leave your items there. You can make money while you're gone. You don't have to sell this house. Now, of course, you can if you want. One of mine I did sell to get the money for leverage to buy more properties and to kind of travel. However, you don't have to, so I just want to make sure that people are aware of that, because that is definitely a question that people are typically asking. So this is a short one. This is all for now. If you have any questions, let me know. Ciao.